Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I must apologise. I had to very quickly get out of my pajamas, and because it's nighttime here, and this is what we do in New Zealand on swinging Saturday nights. We get in our jammies by 9 o'clock. So please. Okay.
Brilliant.
So I have taken a slightly different sort of bent, so I hope you'll forgive me, because my senses, and I'm so sorry, I caught the tail end of you, Beck, and I thought, oh no, well, yeah, I couldn't be first, because people forget what you've said when you're first. And I think, oh bugger, you don't want a vibrant speaker before you. So thanks, Beck. You're wonderful. But I have taken a slightly different bent, and so I hope you will bear with me. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee and all those present, etc. Blah blah. And I'll just get on over. But first of all, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. As Homo sapiens, we became the apex predator, acquiring the skills to master and control our environment, which has placed humans in a dominant position on the planet. We developed some highly sophisticated skills. We created language, which allowed us to rise above the parapet and distinguish ourselves. We acquired mastery through communication, gaining the ability to share information. We chose to become social creatures, reliant on others. We gained strength in our shared knowledge. We cultivated innovative and novel ideas with the accumulative brain power of peoples from different backgrounds. We created an interdependency, and we would leave an indelible mark on the earth, and we have remained in charge ever since. It is the development of language that has allowed us to take governance over our fellow creatures and dictate the relationships with all living matter. Our presence has overshadowed all parts of the globe. We are the ultimate colonizers. No border confines us and no barrier defeats us as we seek more and more territory and sovereignty over the earth. The primary tool we utilised was and remains language. We developed the art of negotiation. We have developed the art of deception and the art of flattery. We have learned to cajole and praise our enemies. We have learned that language can seduce and compliment those who have what we desire. The spoken word has driven mankind to destruction through wars disguised as patriotism. Language is a powerful and underestimated weapon, but it is only the speaker who has the power to administer its great beauty and its great ugliness. Such displays of power are an intoxicating attraction, and our drive to supersede all living creatures can bring us to a state of indifference and even apathy towards those who we perceive as less. We determine who is worthy of our approval and who is not. We make distinctions and select those who appeal and those who enhance our feelings of superiority. We assert our arbitrary medley and we extend it to our peers. The defining process is no more sophisticated nor just than often appearance and replicated outlooks. We are quick to judge those whom we consider act and look different. We make rash and uninformed judgments based on the flimsiest of evidence, filtered through our own prejudices and biases. We view our reality as the only reality and embark on securing that reality by only exposing ourselves to the information that confirms the notion that these people are one of us or they are not. But truth comes in many forms and packages, and we fall victim to the notion that there is only the one truth. Truth is generally established by the leader of a group, and this does not always permit challenges or such judgments, nor allow evolutionary practices to be incorporated. We as a society cannot stay stagnant in a changing world. Our very existence is reliant on our ability to adapt, and we are by nature forever evolving in ideals. Madness is many things. We limit our understanding when we adhere to one paradigm or one ideology of thought. We must take off our blinkers and think diversely about how we approach and consider madness. Madness can also be a time of redemption, a window that allows people to speak their truth, for their truth can be so horrific that it takes huge amounts of energy to keep it suppressed. And when that tightened seal is finally broken, which it must, and the truth erupts out, forceful and muddled and confusing, but pouring out, hopeful there is someone, one person who can help to unravel all that has been trapped inside. Madness can be a direct result of oppression, of trying to rise from the tomb of revulsion, of shame, to announce the injustices, the harm, the soul-destroying happenings in one's life. The energy to keep such things inside is gigantic. To not take advantage of such an occasion seems tantamount to negligence. It is our natural instinct to run from danger, to evade and remove ourselves to a safe harbour, one that offers sanctuary. But what if there is nowhere to run, no way to remove ourselves? Then our mind will create its own. It will endeavour to preserve us from the horrors of the present by removing us psychologically and emotionally from what is inflicting this anguish. This would appear a sensible, rational, even reasonable safety process, but often this very process of self-preservation is identified as a mental illness. How can we realistically expect someone to tolerate such levels of torment and agony without seeking a place of refuge, some respite from what is often continuing torturous events? We pride ourselves in medicine to manage pain, but what of this different type of pain? What of emotional pain? How can that be eradicated? It cannot, for there is no expiry date on trauma. There is no growing out of it or it being a phase. By its very nature, trauma is a memory forever held. It does not have to define you. It does not have to be an impediment to you developing into a flourishing human being. It does not have to rob you of empathy and compassion, but it does have to be addressed. Trauma is an ember that burns eternally, and memories are the oxygen that inflame it. So that an inferno isn't created in milliseconds, years, decades evaporate away in split seconds, and we are there again, the quarry, a permanent casualty of our past. The real madness is to accept someone in this extreme state when most vulnerable, when they have invested so much time and energy into keeping secrets, but compelled as they are not to disclose. This is when we expect people to be clear and concise as succinctly as possible because time is so precious to tell us of all the secrets that has kept them hostage. What is required, even with our skills, with our knowledge of humanness, to decipher all the fury of the heart, all that is keeping people captive. It is for us to recognize that this is a person who is running from themselves, while at the same time trying frantically to find who are they truly meant to be. Given the chance to externalize our pain, we come up with ways to protect ourselves from external threats. But when we do not have the capacity to do so, or have been groomed to internalize our pain, when we rage an internal war that is bent on destructing our self-esteem and our self-regard, the mind can be a powerful ally, but it can also be a cunning enemy. It can distract and deceive us in its benevolent attempt to rescue us from what it seems too hurtful for us to endure. This technique is effective and can become an automatic response to life's harshness. It can remove us to a place often labelled madness. Or is it in fact a way to survive, a place of respite until I can draw on my inner strengths to reassert myself, to process the upheaval, to make sense of the nonsensical? It could have been seen as an attempt to preserve the best parts of ourselves. It is the story that begs to be told. It is the story that is worthy of being listened to. When no one listens, when no one believes, then what options are left? It is said that the truth sets you free, but liberation from torment in our system is based on the opinions of others, of the judgments of those who have not lived our lives, who know nothing of our history, our exploits, our achievements, only of our failures and humiliations. So when did we lose the art of listening? Our full range of senses, when was it decided to stop truly listening? When was it decided that listening to people's stories was solely a way to categorize people into diagnostic groupings, which will determine their future and obliterate them as humans? When did the metamorphosis begin that process of becoming what others say they are? When did we decide to partake of such perverse and flexible practices? How, with the multitude of skills and training and access to academic tests, how could we be so deceived? Quite simply, we just stopped listening with curiosity, with compassion, with empathy, with genuine awe at what people have journeyed through. We became so entrenched in the ideas taught by a small group that we discounted the people who are truly affected, those who have walked through the mire of madness and found themselves scarred and bruised, in control of their own lives, bravely daring to want again, to believe in themselves again, courageously accepting and overcoming all the demeaning and spirit-breaking practices inflicted on them. It's not that they can't be taught. It's not that they didn't understand. It's not that they were defiant or in denial nor insightful. It was just that they found their own way and it worked for them. Surely they are to be admired, and how systems would provide an avenue for them to share the miracle they have uncovered. But no, we label them and endeavour to direct them to the one true way, our way. It must be considered if that is not the very definition of a firm fixed belief, a belief held in our own superiority, own invincibility, our own lack of confidence in the craft of healing, then what is? It is confronting to know that we live in a society that has created such beasts. It is even harder to acknowledge that we do not recognise people who perpetrate such damage on others. But that makes us vulnerable, so best to blame the victims for what has happened to them. Better then to identify them as weak, as flawed, as gullible and deserving of victimhood. For to alleviate our own fears and anxieties to falling prey to such deception. How useful that we have a tool that distinguishes those who are not able to protect themselves. The detritus of our communities, those whose fates are sealed long before they enter into our world. How useful that they can be labelled as mentally ill. For now, they are not us. It is the injury, the wound we impose on people that devils and profanes those people who find themselves forever scarred by title and deed. We condemn such people, and the loathing permeates from the community, the othering that occurs within all spheres of society that propagates the groundwork for self-destruction and self-hatred. It diminishes you and leaves you and mutilated. The genesis of the idea begins, then it grows exponentially like a cancer. Its tentacles invade all thought, all actions. It becomes the pervasive evil inside you, confirming all negative and derogatory thought and feeling about yourself. It becomes a truth. It becomes your truth, but a truth nonetheless. Hence, the only way to exist in the world is to denounce your place in it, to accept you are unworthy of any human kindness, and isolate yourself to ensure you do not spread your contagion of internalized evil. And our society is happy to accommodate us in our practice. Unfortunately, for some of us, the system has developed a tool that aids in segregating members of our community. We have developed a manual, reams of pages committed to constructing a new identity, one that obliterates past events and reauthors your life. It offers one and one only possible explanations for people's actions. It is called a diagnosis, and it is the manualized internment of damaged people. We work in servitude to it, and the public equally falls victim to the mythology and misappropriation of lives lived that had been broken. I think of these manuals of categorization as the quicksand of choice. Once we step into the myriad of diagnoses, we are devoured. And when we struggle to extract ourselves, we find ourselves more and more consumed until eventually we surrender and succumb to the inevitable. As we slowly suffocate and are absorbed into the sand, we leave no ripple, no trace of the person who once stood there. Those who get to judge with a mere snapshot, the briefest of time with us, then endeavour to gauge all that is to be known. There is no greater arrogance and ignorance as to deem that one's mysteries, one's secrets are divulged in such a manufactured environment and in such a limited time span. For those whose lives have been ravaged by successive traumas, what foolishness is this that we remain our right to pronounce lifelong labels to the detriment of someone's future, to ordain someone less worthy than another to plot their lives in diminishing circles, to orchestrate the future path and ignore the pattern of a life unlived without sorrow. When we disregard the trauma people have experienced, we dismiss a person. We invalidate every callous act imposed on that person. We deny the viciousness, the maliciousness, the punishing trials that people have endured. We invalidate the resilience and resourcefulness that has allowed people to survive. I think we should start by dispelling the myth that we work in mental health. I believe it is neither a true nor accurate description of what we do. I maintain that we are in fact experts in mental ill health, that we are trained to identify behaviours and thoughts that fit into the prescribed ideologies. We use an reductionist approach to the most complex and debilitating reactions to a life dominated by heartache. Layer upon layer of hardship, of sorrow, of fear, of abuse, of entrapment, of rejection, of alcohol and drug use, of shame, of guilt, of humiliation, of rage, of denial, of grief, of betrayal, and the agony born from neglect. Service's primary focus is on alleviating the so-called symptoms of mental illness. We do this with a proliferation of drugs and internment. We seclude, we restrain, we herd those with equally distressing presentations into a place where anguish and distress consumes all inhabitants. We take people from all that is familiar and reassuring to a place where people have no control and no power. We disempower the powerless and we endeavour to numb the distress with harsh, life-reducing chemicals whose effect lasts well beyond the period of distress. The real madness is to expect someone in this extreme state, their most vulnerable state, those who have invested so much time and energy into keeping a secret, but feel compelled not to disclose the secret. And this is when we expect people to be clear and concise, as succinctly as possible. Just tell us what is wrong. For our time is so precious. Just tell us your secrets, the secrets that are keeping you hostage. Calling on all our skills, all our knowledge of humanness, we begin to decipher all the fury of the heart, all that is keeping people entrapped. It is for us to recognise that this is a person who is running from themselves, while at the same time trying frantically to find who they were truly meant to be. We must be courageous in our commitment to change, for change is not a criticism at all, but I think we should consider that bringing about change originates from building on what we have achieved. It is the accumulative knowledge and the advancement within service delivery that signals our growth. It speaks to the expansion in our understanding, for no successful venture can afford to stay static. It is the nature of excellence that we evolve and grow in our approaches and attitudes. I am sure you are familiar with the term transformational change. It is often bandied about, but I would like us to consider restorative change, people reclaiming all that is owed to them, the respect and regard afforded to all citizens, reclaiming the dignity of those most vulnerable in our community, reclaiming their passion for life. Change is an inevitable part of life, and we constantly invite our clients to change, to try things out, to have a go at different things, so as to improve their mental well-being. We can inadvertently overlook the courage and fortitude it takes for people to overcome what seems like the inconsequential concessions. Let us consider, though, are we prepared to make changes to our own way of being? If we continue to do things by rote, if we don't expand our repertoire of approaches, if we rigidly stick to chosen dogmas and practices, then we shackle ourselves and those to whom we serve. It is time to ponder on why we have become stuck. It can be the fear of change, the fear of exposing our inadequacies. It can be fear of not being able to predict the outcome. It can come from the discomfort of sitting with the unknown. And yet this is what we ask of clients every day. The very nature of working mental health is learning to tolerate the discomfort of the unknown. The adventure comes from discovering the many paths that guide people to where they choose to be. Diversity is about difference. It is about celebrating all that is unique and profound about ourselves. It is about rejoicing in all the dimensions that manifest to make us human beings. It's about being curious about how people have got to this place, what the role culture plays, of exploring the mystic and magic that emerges from discovering the internalized processes that influence people's thinking. It is delving into the very nature of what it is to be human. It expands our knowledge base. It enhances our capacity to further understanding. It is an awakening and an acknowledging that there is more than one way to view the world and more than one way to live in it. It is, I believe, the very core of mental health work. It is time for our language. It will play a crucial role in our future developments. It is the debates and dialogues we will engage in that will instigate the necessary changes. It will be time to focus on the role as experts by experience. It will provide a different body of knowledge. It will allow us to provide alternate views and ways of thinking. It will help to articulate what cannot be articulated by scientific knowledge. It will be our contribution. It will be our legacy. It will be our words, our sounds. It will be our music to our rhythm and our lyrics. It will be our formation as a choir with voices raised in reclamation of all that has been taken from us. It will be our reclamation songs, and it will be our gift. Thank you.